All right, guys, this is the video for final exam review for Unit 3. I think this one's going to be kind of long. Please don't just watch this video and feel like that's enough. I would spend an extra 30 minutes probably going through Unit 3, okay? All right, so first problem I want to do is if f of x is x squared minus 1 and g of x is x to the 4th, then find f of g. Okay, so first thing I need you to understand that f of g is the same thing as f of g of x, which is also the same thing as f of g of x. Those are all the same. They could write it any of those ways. So the way I like to write it is the bottom way. So I'm going to take that g of x and replace it with what g of x is, which is x to the 4th. Now I go into this f of x, and right there where I see an x, I put in an x to the 4th. So that's in parentheses, x to the 4th cubed minus 1. So that's x to the 4 times 3, which is 12, minus 1, and that's your answer. So power to a power, you multiply. Okay? All right, so the next one I'm going to do is the same thing, except a little bit uglier. Okay, so there's your f of x, there's your g of x. Find f of g and the domain. Okay, so that would be f of g of x. G of x is 1 over 3x plus 4. So now right there where I see that x in my f of x, I'm going to replace it with 1 over 3x plus 4. So that's 2 multiplied by 1 over 3x plus 4 minus 1. Now, some of you don't know how to multiply those two things together. When you multiply fractions, the tops get multiplied together and the bottoms get multiplied together. This is not 2 over 2. So the 2 does not get multiplied by the top and the bottom. This is a 2 over 1, because that's what a 2 is 2 over 1. So the 2 goes on the top. 2 times 1 is 2. The bottom is 1 times 3x plus 4, which is 3x plus 4, minus 1. Now, if they tell you to simplify completely, you need to get a common denominator, which is 3x plus 4. This guy already has a 3x plus 4, so just write down your 2. This guy's missing the 3x plus 4. Distribute, and you get negative 3x minus 4. Then you combine, and that's a negative 3x minus 2 over 3x plus 4. And then when you're finding the domain, you don't just look there at the answer. You have to look throughout the problem at any denominator that you ever have. So here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one. They're all basically the same thing. So if you say 3x plus 4 cannot be equal to 0, that means 3x cannot be negative 4. That means x cannot be equal to a negative 4/3. Okay. By the way, if they asked you to write that in set notation, you would say x such that x cannot be equal to negative 4/3. I have had one time where they ask you to put it in interval notation. So that basically means everything but a negative 4/3. So that would be negative infinity to negative 4/3 with a parenthesis, union negative 4/3 to infinity with a parenthesis. So anyway, a couple of different forms. Okay, we're going to do another one, just like that. Okay, different equations. So if f of x is x minus 3 over 3x plus 1, and g of x is 4 over x, find f of g. Oh, no. Okay, so this is how it's worded actually. F of g of x is 4 minus 3x over 12 plus x. Find the domain. Okay, and they also, I'm sure you guys remember this, but they also say, here's your f of x. The domain of f of x is x such that x cannot be equal to negative 1/3. And then they do this, and they say the domain is x such that x cannot be equal to 0. So then they're saying find the domain of the whole thing. Well, what goes in is your g of x. So do you see how that's a restriction? So you've got a restriction that x cannot be equal to 0. And then you look at what comes out, that would be your answer, and that gives you x cannot be equal to negative 12. This 3x plus 1 is not a restriction. X cannot be equal to negative 1/3 is not a restriction. I'll show you why, okay? You don't have to do any of it, what I'm about to show you. What you do have to do is you have to know when you're finding this, you check what comes in, that's your g of x, and what comes out, that's your answer. What comes in gives you a 0, what comes out gives you a negative 12, done, okay? So I want to explain why 3x plus 1 is not a restriction, or x can't be 1/3. Okay, look, so this is f of g of x. Well, g of x is 4 over x. You should probably watch this anyway, or maybe even write it down, because they might give you a problem like this where they actually have you find it. So go into your f of x, and right here where you see an x, put in 4 over x, okay? So you have 4 over x minus 3 over 3 times 4 over x plus 1. So the top is fine. I'm just going to leave it how it is for right now. On the bottom, remember how to multiply by 3 times 4 over x. It's not 3 over 3, it's 3 over 1. So that's 12 over x plus 1. Now people want to automatically make that a division. Do not do that. So get your common denominator on the top. This guy already has the x, so put a 4. This guy's missing the x, so minus x. On the bottom, common denominator is an x. This guy already has it, so you put a 12. This guy's missing it, so you put an x. So then now you write it as a division, 4 minus 3x over x, divided by 12 plus x over x. Then I change that and make it a multiplication. And I flip the second guy upside down. The first guy stays the way it is. The x's cancel, and you have 4 minus 3x over 12 plus x, okay? So the reason I'm showing you all this, you didn't, for this particular problem, you did not have to do that. I'm showing you this because they could ask you that. The other thing is I'm trying to show you why negative 1/3 is not a restriction. Look, if you look at any denominator, okay, I'm going to have to circle it. I can't do colors. My machine's being weird. So anything that I circle, I'm not going to circle the one. Now, who cares? I'll circle the one. Anything that I'm circling was in the denominator at some point. So the x gives me a restriction of 0. The 12 plus x gives me a restriction of negative 12. There was never a 3x plus 1 in the denominator at any time. That's why that is the domain. Okay, so just remember, check what comes in and what comes out. Okay, all right, here's question number 4. So they'll give you this table. And they're going to ask you, find g of f of 3. So the first thing you need to do is find f of 3. So if x is a 3, f of x is a negative 1. So f of 3 is a negative 1. So now I find g of negative 1. Go to your x value of negative 1. What's your g of x? Negative 4. That's your answer. Okay, here's question 5. They give you this f. It's a set of numbers, set of ordered pairs, and then they ask you, what is f inverse of 1? Well, the inverse of that function is just switch the x's and y's. You don't have to write this down, I'm just showing you. There's your inverse. Now, on that inverse, if x is 1, what's y? It's right there, 5. You could just look at it and say, I know they're going to switch. If that's the x, that's the y. Okay? All right, number 6. Y equals 3 to the x plus 2. Find the intercepts and the range. Okay, well, you have to graph it. So this was on a test or quiz. Many people missed it. The reason they missed it is because they did not graph it. Okay, so this is just an exponential graph shifted up 2. So the parent looks like this. Every parent exponential hits 0, 1, and then this one, the base is a 3, so I'm going to go right 1, up 3, there's my parent. And now I'm going to take that guy and shift it up 2. So my asymptote goes right there. Okay, I was at 0, 1, now I'm at 0, 3. I was at 1, 3, now I'm at 1, 5. Looks like that. Curve it in, done. Okay, now I wasn't asked to graph it, but you have to graph it to answer it. So the intercepts, I'm going to say my x-intercept is none. I can see it's never going to hit it. My y-intercept is 0, 3. And then find the range. Range is y, start low. It goes from a 2 to infinity, but it's never going to hit a 2. So it's 2 with a parenthesis. Okay, here's number 7. Solve that. Okay, well, this is an exponential problem, but you're not stuck because of the 5. That is not 15 to the x plus 1. So to get rid of the 5, you divide. So you have 3 to the x plus 1. 25 divided by 3 is 5. And now I'm stuck, so I convert this. So this is log base 3 of 5 is equal to x plus 1. To solve for x, pull your 1 over. Negative 1 plus log base 3 of 5. That's your answer. Never put any answer in decimal form unless you're asked to. If you store that in and plug it into the left-hand side, you should get a 25. Let me just remind you how to put that in your calculator. So if you go negative 1 plus log 5, close it, divided by log 3, close it, store, enter. Now put it in the left-hand side original. So go 5 times 3 to the parenthesis, membar, enter, plus 1, close it, enter. I just checked my answer. That quick, okay? So as you do these reviews, you guys, for this final, you have got to get in the mindset of checking everything you can, okay? Here's number 8. 2 log base 3 of x is equal to log base 3 of 4x plus 5. First of all, it's given in log form, so I know I'm going to have to check it. So I'm going to put check right there just so I don't forget. So when I look at this, I see log base 3 of something and log base 3 of something. They're not just the logs over there because of the 2 sitting in the front on the left-hand side, but I can easily make it part of the log by pulling it up right there. So now I have log base 3 of x to the second is equal to log base 3 of 4x plus 5. So now if log base 3 of this is log base 3 of that, those things must be equal to each other. It's not that the logs disappear, it's that they have to be the same if the logs are the same, okay? So set that equal to 0. X to the second minus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Then I factor, so it goes to x and x. 5 goes to 5 and 1. Signs are different. Biggest is the negative. That gives me x equals negative 1 and positive 5. You check from the original, not from this, and you must write it clearly. So you write x equals negative 1, and then you write that equation down. 2 log base 1. I can tell right there that it's not going to work, but I'm going to keep writing it. So I've got a full line like that. I'm going to write the words invalid solution because I know that x cannot be a negative. Now I'm going to check x equals 5. So I'm going to go 2 log base 3 of 5 equals base 3 of 4, 5 plus 5. Okay, to put the left-hand side in, you go 2 log 5, close it, divided by log 3, close it, enter, and I get 2.93 approximately. Left-hand side, I'm going to go log 4 times 5 is 20 plus 5 is 25. So it's log 25, close it out, divided by log 3, close it out. I get exactly the same thing. The only thing I highlight is my answer, which is x equals 5. Okay, I'm doing 0, and then we're done. 10. Okay, here's number 9. Log base 2 of x plus 1 minus log base 2 of x is equal to 1. Okay, 2 log number that's not 0, condense and convert. I also have to remember to check because it's given log. Okay, so since those are subtracted, when I condense, they're going to be divided. This, the negative goes on the bottom, which is the x plus 1 goes on the top. And now I'm stuck, so I convert it. So it's 2 to the first is x plus 1 over x. 2 to the first is just a 2. 1 underneath it and cross multiply. I get 2x equals x plus 1. Move my x over, and I get x equals 1. And I'm going to check it. So I'm going to go log base 2 of 1 plus 1 minus log base 2 of 1 is equal to 1. I can tell right now that it works because log base anything of 1 is a 0. This is log base 2 of 2. I know log base 2 of 2 is a 1. So I have 1 minus 0, which is a 1. You can also put it in your calculator. Here's number 10. So I need you to know that there are lots of money problems, potentially, or at least last semester there were on the final, okay? So be really aware of that money section. Okay, so John wants to triple $2,000 by investing it, okay? He knows he's going to get 4.25% compounded monthly. How long should he invest it? Okay, so if it's compounded monthly, it's 2,000 times 3 is 6,000. This is 1 plus the rate, which is 0.0425. Monthly, your n is at 12, raised to the 12 times t. Just freeze right there and look at that. I know I'm going to have to convert it into log because the variable is stuck in the exponent. I'm not ready to do that yet, but I know I'm going to. So just keep that in the back of your head. If you divide by 2,000, I get 1 plus 0.0425 divided by 12 raised to the 12t is equal to 3. Now, some people have been taking the 12th root of that. You cannot do that. If it were 12th power without the t, you could, but you cannot, okay? So don't do that. Another thing, if you go 1 plus 0.0425 divided by 12, it's an ugly number. So I don't think, I was going to say it's a nice number, so I would change it, but it's not a nice number. So I'm not going to change it into a decimal. So now I'm going to convert. So it's going to be log base 1 plus 0.0425 divided by 12 of 3 is equal to 12t. So to solve for t, I divide, okay? Now here's how you put this in. Everybody go log 3, close it, divided by log 1 plus 0.0425 divided by 12, close it. I'm going to hit enter right there. Then I'm going to go divide 12, hit enter, and I get t equals 25.2 digits would be 9. Okay, and it's always in years. Now look what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit store enter. I'm going to come back right there, put it in, make sure I get 6,000. So go 2,000 parenthesis 1 plus 0.0425 divided by 12, close it off, raise it to the parenthesis 12, membar, enter, close it, enter. I just got it right. Okay, so check, check, check. Okay, same question, but now it's compounded continuously. Remember, if they ask you for the setup, this is what they want. So some people were like, yay, there's my setup. No, that's the formula, okay? So they don't want the formula, they want you to stick the things in the formula. So you want to take your original 2,000, you want to triple it to 6,000, That's e to the rate, which is 0.0425 times t. There's your setup, okay? I'm going to actually go through and solve it, okay? If they ask you to set it up, you're done. I'm not stuck, so I divide. E to the 0.0425 times t. 6,000 divided by 2,000 is a 3. And now I'm stuck, so I convert it. So it's log base e of 3, that's ln 3, is negative 0.0425 t. Ln 3 divided by negative 0.0425. Grab your calculator, go ln 3, close it off, divided by negative 0.0425, hit enter, and I did something wrong. Oh, I don't know why I have a negative. That's funny. That is not a negative, that is a positive. So then I get t equals ln 3, close it off, divided by 0.0425, hit enter, and I get 25.85. These money problems, the time is always years, okay? Store that in, hit enter, put it right here, and you better get 6,000. So go 2,000, second ln, 0.0425, membar, enter, close it, enter, 6,000. So many of these are checkable, you guys, okay? Okay, last one I'm going to do. The half-life of a substance is 1.5 months. If you start with 42 grams, when will you have 20 grams and round it to 2 digits? Okay, here's what I really need you to know. So you have A equals CE to the KT. Okay, there's your formula. When you do half-life, you're looking for your K. You always start with something. They told me what I started with. If they don't tell you, make it up. If I make it up, I always put 100. I don't have to make it up, it's 42. Then what you do is on the other side, you put half. Some of you are putting double. It is not doubling life, it's half-life. So this would be 21. If you put 100, then that would be 50. Then it's E. Then for time, you don't put 20 or 42, you put the half-life. So it's 1.5 times K. So listen, half-life, the first step is always put what you start with, cut it in half, up in T, put whatever the half-life is, okay? I know I'm going to have to convert, but I'm not ready. Divide by 42. So e to the 1.5k is 41 divided by 42, which is 0.5. Convert it, ln 0.5 is equal to 1.5k. To find k, ln 0.5 divided by 1.5. Grab your calculator and go ln 0.5, close it off, divided by 1.5, hit enter, and I get k is approximately negative 0.4621. Store that in, and of course it's negative because the amount's going down. Step 1 is find your k, I did that. Step 2 is find your model. So that's my model with a number in for C and a number in for K. Well, my C is 42, and my K that I have stored is negative 0.4621. Now read the question. When will you have 20? So does my 20 go in for T or A? It's an amount, not a time. So it goes in for A. I know I'm going to have to convert it, but I'm not ready. So I divide by 42, and I get e to the negative 0.4621t is equal to 20 divided by 42. Okay, now this is going to be tricky. So you know what, actually, I'm not even going to store it. I was going to store it. I'm going to just put it as 20 over 42. You could also write it as 10 over 21. Doesn't matter. So now I'm going to convert it. So it's ln of, I'm going to put 10 over 21 is equal to negative 0.4621t. And now to solve, I divide. So it's ln 10 over 21 divided by negative 4621, which I have stored in. So everybody go ln 10 divide 21, close it off, divided by membar, enter, enter, and I get 1.61, 2 digits, years. Is it years? Months. Okay, now let's check it. Everybody hit store, write, enter. Okay, so my T is stored in as my B. So I'm going to go right here, actually. I'm going to go 42 e to the a times b. So 42 second ln, membar, enter, membar, right, enter, enter, and I got 20, and I know I got it right. Okay, that's Unit 3, guys. Okay, make sure that is not all you do for Unit 3. Spend about 30 minutes looking through the workbook, please.